It's humanities. Today we're talking about the New Left and the New Right. The 20th century saw more change than perhaps all previous history combined. In that time, the lives of hundreds of millions of people and our views on almost everything changed dramatically. 3 key events reshaped the world: the Russian Revolution and the 2 world wars. After World War II, rapid economic growth began, life stabilized, and people found themselves in a new reality. Politics, power, the economy, ethics, and the state were still there. But after what had happened, it was clear that everything had to be rethought, and new ideas were needed. The prefix neo signals continuity. Some ideas are taken from earlier theories, while others are revised or dropped, and new elements are added to reflect the spirit of the time. The New Left of the 20th century, like the left of the 19th, aimed to change the world because they saw it as unjust. In the 19th century, socialists and communists focused on workers and relied on them as the main political force. In the 20th century, the focus shifted. There are several reasons for this. First, workers no longer looked as oppressed as before. In the second half of the 20th century, their economic and political conditions were much better. Second, there was less belief that workers could be the force that would transform society. Calls to rise up against the bourgeoisie no longer had the same impact. Third, there was growing disappointment with the Soviet Union, which had been closely associated with leftist ideas. Marxism there turned from a dynamic theory into a rigid doctrine, and the Communist Party became a slow and often inhumane bureaucratic system. In 1956, Khrushchev's speech on the cult of personality deepened this disillusionment, as it exposed a system that had drifted far from its original ideals of equality and freedom. As a result, the New Left shifted focus from the working class to issues that seemed more urgent at the time: racism, feminism, homophobia, consumer society, and the political establishment. Driven by a sense of justice, the New Left argued against discrimination and exclusion. They supported equal treatment regardless of race, equal opportunities for women, the right to openly express sexual orientation, and equal access to education and careers. They also believed that existing elites suppressed the masses and did not govern in the public interest, so they favoured direct democracy over representative systems. They criticised consumer society as shallow and lacking higher meaning, reducing life to consumption. The New Right built on 19th century ideas about nation, tradition and hierarchy, but rejected liberalism and in some ways moved closer to the left. First, they opposed Americanization. After World War II, the United States became the dominant global power, and its cultural influence spread widely. The New Right argued that Europe was losing its identity and turning into a copy of America, so they called for a revival of European traditions and uniqueness. They were also concerned about cultural differences linked to immigration. They argued that mixing cultures undermines national identity. At the same time, they did not call for violence, but for separation that would allow minority groups to preserve their identity, without changing that of the host country. The New Right rejected the idea of equality. They argued that people are not born equal, and that hierarchy is natural and necessary. In their view, a society oriented toward elites can be more stable, with clear roles and purposes for everyone. They also criticised liberalism and capitalism, which unexpectedly brought them closer to the left. But the reasons differ. The left criticises capitalism for inequality and exploitation, while the New Right criticises it for global standardisation and the erosion of local identities. And this is Humanities. Subscribe here and on Patreon. Videos come out earlier there, along with the texts. See you in the next one.